stop and a couple of corners at 2 and 4 yesterday. Set to go racing in Tasmania for the tyre power. Tasmania SuperSprint race number 5. A beautiful jump by both of those on the front row. They make contact on the run towards 2. Frosty has a push and shove. Van Gisbergen runs a little wide. Frosty's got the ascendancy as they run past the rivets at 3. Mark Winterbottom, Shane Van Gisbergen. Watch for trouble down here on the outside of 4. Will Davison's up into 4th. Jamie Whincup's the meat in that sandwich. Mostert down the inside covering.
What a great job there by Mark Winterbottom. We talk about Van Gisbergen's aggression, but as they went over there together, they bumped door to door, and Frosty pushed him wide on purpose. Alongside now with McLaughlin around the outside. That's 265k there as Winterbottom leads from Van Gisbergen, Whincup, Davison, Mostert, Waters and Holdsworth maintain that spot.
On board. Cold tyres, cold brakes, cold brains as everybody comes up to speed in the process here. And this is not like yesterday's race. You can peel off and get rid of some of this fuel straight away. So think about the Hino hub. When I talked about people having clearance in the tank to put fuel in, that's what they're doing in terms of Rick Kelly and Craig Lowndes. Winterbottom and Van Gisbergen, it's 0.2 of a second. Temperature update as we watch the ag coming off turn 4, and Frosty is having a big battle here with Van Gisbergen. Track 26, air is 20, so warmer temperatures than yesterday and a lot less breeze on the nose. Look at Frosty bringing up the dust, covering. The problem with covering, it's the slow line. He will be vulnerable to Van Gisbergen as they make their run down here. Look for action when they get down to the hairpin at turn 4, and Van Gisbergen can't fall asleep at the wheel here because Whincup will be all over him.
What a great dice this is between the factory Ford and Holden teams. Winterbottom continues to lead from Van Gisbergen, but he had to block at turn 6. Van Gisbergen had the run, he moved it over, and I thought he was going to go into the pit because he was desperate to maintain that spot. Little bump as Van Gisbergen clears the brake and gets up the inside. He's got track position now. He's got to hold on to the outside run. He'll be on the inside for turn 6.
The Red Bull cars have been very good in first gear, sitting squarely on both rear tyres, getting good drive. So he's done him. He's got up the inside here, Van Gisbergen, and Whincup wants a piece of the action as well. It's going to be Red Bull 1 and 2 in a heartbeat, and in they go. So Frosty yesterday, pole converted to a 9th. He made a good jump. There was some biff and barge with Van Gisbergen right here on lap 1. And here we are now on lap 4. Frosty finds himself in 3rd. Coulthard's quick as well. Fastest lap of the race so far. Love that shot up against the fence at turn 3.
And 2 beautiful manoeuvres. The manoeuvre here, last lap, for Van Gisbergen, who cleared the brake and fired down the hill, up the inside. But Mark Winterbottom got track position. That move was done. The next great manoeuvre was the Jamie Whincup manoeuvre because he positioned the car perfectly. In fact, he pushed his teammate down the inside. And here comes Whincup. Don't discount Whincup in this. This is the benchmark operator at Symmons Plains, a 6-time champion.
Big trouble.
Yellow flag out. That's a big accident.
There's been a nasty accident on the exit of the hairpin at turn 4. Can't actually pick that car at the moment. Whincup was applying huge pressure.
I think it's Pither's car, isn't it?
And if it is, that's bad news for ProDrive. It is Pither. Because that's a spare car. His primary car was damaged at turn 8 in Adelaide. That's had a monumental. So people will react to this. Again, remember the Hino Hub suggestion that they will try to use the opportunity to take on fuel and tick that requirement to draw down on the 120 litres. And Whincup understands that this is the moment early in the race where you can put a big amount of pressure on and try and make the move. And in they go. So he's actually willing to sacrifice having to cue Jamie Whincup. They're all going to come in.
Oh, how was that?
Nose to
Seriously,
tail.
that was massive. Coulthard almost speared the back of McLaughlin. He was down the outside in the grass. So what Neil said then is that Whincup is going to have the double stack. He will be hurt by this. Winterbottom should be the beneficiary of the drama for car 88. So 97 in, Shane Van Gisbergen. This man has to park. Davison
smart.
comes in.
That's smart. So he doesn't impede Will. They're parallel parked
All
in.
clear, mate. All
Now he
clear.
can get in. Remember, they won't have to stand still too long for fuel,
Clear.
There goes Winterbottom.
but it does hurt.
Okay, mate.
But it's the lesser of the two evils for Jamie Whincup. If he stayed in the queue out there, he runs the risk of being at the back of the pack when the field compresses. So Van Gisbergen in the lead. That looked like a nasty incident involving Chris Pither on the exit of 4.
You're behind the 34.
That's a fair way down.
He's right there. Go, 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 go.
Yep, behind the 34. That was good call there by the car controller to make sure that Cam Waters didn't make contact with James Moffat. So he was hurt. Waters was hurt by the double stack. But Van Gisbergen, who was prioritised based on leading the race, Winterbottom got a clear stop. This is the damage that Neil Crompton's talking about, because it's a long way from turn 4 to 5 there. That would be more like 210 or 220 kilometres an hour. It's a fast area of the racetrack. And there's a huge amount of damage to the front of this car, but it's also got damage to the rear. We saw that originally with the rear end shot when it was parked on that bank. And let's see if we can tell you a little bit more of the story. That's Garth Tander. Pither is there with either Heimgartner or Percat.
It's gone across his nose.
And it's so close to hitting that guardrail on the left where the flag marshals were. It missed the guardrail where the flag marshals were and went up the hill and hit the guardrail on the way down to turn 4. I've never seen a car make it right through and hit in the opposite direction. That is a lot of force. And I'm not sure whether it was Heimgartner or Percat. I think it may have been Percat, but I'm just not sure at this point, because Percat in track position right now is actually in 16th position with Garth Tander in 15th. So maybe they're a little bit further back, so we'll just have to reserve our judgment on that one. I'm not sure also how much of the overlap was there. Just have another look. This is a great start. I love this, Neil. They make contact. There's all the gamesmanship. They move over on each other. The bump, 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 bump. And then this move. He did not give it away. He pushed Van Gisbergen wide. That's great aggression from Mark Winterbottom. We often comment that he needs to show more of it. The series champion from last year on board now with Van Gisbergen. Over the hill, bang, bang, bang. And that's how wide Van Gisbergen goes.
The audio on Shane's car was interesting because, and we'll listen here. A little bit more wheel spin for Frosty, but the audio for Shane's car, he converted the drive immediately. Next to no wheel spin. Great contest down there at turn 2. They're talking about a lot of inside front locking for Scott Pye's car, car number 17. And here's the slow-mo replay of the push and shove, because it makes so much difference to come out of this first corner on top.
Under normal circumstances, you might get into a little bit of trouble for that.
Yeah.
Remember last year, the drama with Reynolds and Lowndes in exactly the same position.
So Shane realised that there's not a lot of point in trying to squeeze him there, because that will end in tears.
Here we go. Here's a bump. There's a little bump. But he got it done.
It was only a snick.
And this was wild. I love this stuff here. But he had to block, which interests me straight away, because you don't try in the early laps like that to have too much of the blocking, because it slows everybody down.
Well, he was having trouble pulling it up, and then because he turns in shallow, he makes the corner tighter. And then watch all the action behind here. It's like peak hour traffic. Everybody's getting into the back of everybody else. And then when they got down here to the Red Bull garage, watch Whincup, who props and stops one position wide. And here's the replay of what happened involving Chris Pither. So that is Percat, I think, on the left of him, not Heimgartner. And it's classically across the nose of it, and it's fired it up into that fence, done pretty substantial damage at both ends of that car. And they've been in the wars at ProDrive in the repair business for the last several weeks since the Clipsal 500.
So check this out. This is the shot I was gasping at, because here they all come in. Bang, they're all braking the cars hard. There's a concertina effect. And check this now. There's, oh, down the outside. He had nowhere to go.
Well,
Fabian Coulthard.
Because Cam Waters was slowing up to make sure that there was a margin. So he was actually out of it before he got to the 40k line. That's what that was all about. So nobody was quite ready for that. And that's a sorry sight for the Icebreak Ford Falcon. And they put one of those cars, the primary car, the original car, on the back of the flatbed truck after the incident at Turn 8 in Adelaide. And I saw the onboard imagery from that car Chris O'Toole showed me in Adelaide, and it had massive contact. It's about to come back out of the workshop, back in pristine condition, and now this one's about to go back in. Quick opportunity for us, Mark, just to say thank you to all of those that volunteer and do the marshalling, the vehicle recovery, safety intervention and fire crews who make these events possible for us through their volunteering work. Thank you.
And a big thank you to the Tasmanian government and the events group for all of their effort in the upgrades to Simmons Plains since last year. You can notice all those wall profiles, all the gravel traps have been done. Roughly $2 million has been spent on the facility, and we love coming down to Tassie. Rusty?
I'm with the team manager at ProDrive Racing Australia, Tim Edwards. So firstly, let's deal with the damaged car, because you came out of Clipsal with damage to Chris's car. He's in the Dunlop Series car this weekend. Now there's more work to do. What a shame.
Oh, hugely disappointing, and yeah, what do I say about that?
What's your take on the incident then?
Oh, look, it's hard to say. I mean, he clipped the wall. I don't know whether he damaged the steering or something. But, you know, he's obviously skewed a bit sideways, tagged the wall, and then obviously whether he didn't see the car coming up on his left, I don't know. I mean, they just see it a bit more in slow motion and talk to him about what was going on. But, yeah, huge amount of damage.
OK, let's concentrate on the other side of the ledger now. The positive, it would seem, your decision to split Chaz and to split Frosty in terms of a potential double stacking situation may have just paid off.
Yeah, well, it's not as all as it would seem. Obviously, you know, unfortunately Cam was compromised in that because he had to queue, so we put a lot of fuel in that car. So he's got a very short last stop, but it's not all about number 1 and number 55. So
you watched the stops closely after yesterday too. You happy?
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, the guys did a good job. It was just a little bit disappointing with what happened yesterday. Obviously, you know, that little overshoot, and that just obviously compromises everything. People trip over tyres, and it all goes wrong. It all escalates, and then obviously on the pit exit, he, you know, got forced off the track. So yeah, it was just it was disappointing. But I think, you know, the stop was good then. You know, the guys did a good job. You know, anytime you do a double stack, it's challenging for the guys.
Long way to go. Press on.
Thanks, mate.
Lights are out on the Lexus RCF safety car. We're about to go racing once again. Remember that for Rick Kelly and Craig Lowndes, who came in early, they took 2 rear tyres and about 40 litres of fuel. So this has given them a good opportunity to climb back up the order. There they are in the game. Now, Frosty took on just under 50 litres of fuel. Cam Waters and most of the others are somewhere in the mid to high 60s. Racing once again. Tyres have cooled out. And on that topic, this is the first time that we've been back here with the tyre pressure monitoring systems as well. So we're seeing tyre management, pressure and temperature management different year on year, 16 versus 15.
So that was the spot right there where Pither went off to the left, and often there's a lot of manoeuvring of the vehicle trying to give racing room, and any overlap there will easily result in the car spinning. So that was the reaction that we were able to get there from Tim Edwards and the amount of damage. There's a lot of bumping in there with Whincup now back behind Courtney. So he's got a lot of work to do now, Jamie Whincup, who's down in 12th position after that double stack. It was a bit of a lazy restart for Craig Lowndes and Chaz Mostert. There was about 5 or 6 car lengths, and you can already see the gap from Mostert up to Lowndes and Lowndes up to Rick Kelly. So Van Gisbergen, Winterbottom, Kelly, Lowndes, Mostert, Davison, Pye, Holdsworth, McLaughlin, Coulthard.
So Frosty looks a little better in phase here in this segment of the race. Sticking with Van Gisbergen, 0.2 of a second. Or Biff. And you'll be careful you don't get eased off the road there. That was another one. It was almost a carbon copy of what happened earlier. Incidentally, that Pither chassis.
Oh, here we go. He's just given him a hit there, Neil. It come out of 6 and a little bump. He almost spun him as he moved across. They had an overlap between 6 and 7. That was very close. Look at the damage on the left-hand rear there of Van Gisbergen's car. So Frosty's up for it today, folks. He is up for this battle. Great job at turn 1 and 2 against Van Gisbergen, and already the body language of getting into the back of Van Gisbergen at the restart.
So there's a little bit of niggle going on here because there was at the start. So there's another tit for tat. So there's just a bit of rattling going on between these two. It started down at turn 2, lap 1. Officially 0.19 of a second was going to add before that car that Pithers wadded up down there on the exit of 4 was the car that won round 1 of the Dunlop Series in Adelaide, driven by Gary Jacobson. Here we go, back up the inside again. This will be a little Morse coding on the left rear bumper. Frosty might actually get him here. What a great move down the inside. He's got the line now for 2. Oh, he almost gets crossed up and turned. Does Shane redress this one, or do they bat on? Side by side through 3. Van Gisbergen's got the grill of the Holden just in front, and Rick Kelly's in here. These guys are going to duke this one out, and there could be a knockout before we get to the checkered flag. Watch Kelly. Rick's down the inside. Frosty wrote an invitation for him.
What a classic exchange. That was wild stuff by Mark Winterbottom, who got up the inside. Then Van Gisbergen gave him a serve over the rise. And he's having a little look again. He's aggressive today, Mark Winterbottom. They had a little bump then at turn 2, and they go through turn 3 together. Rick Kelly was positioned up the inside behind them. This is on, folks. This is as good as it can possibly get. Right in behind this battle is Lowndes and Mostert.
And the danger with this stuff going on is all that rubbing, not hard to knock steering by a tiny margin, hurt your geometry.
That's complete.
So Van Gisbergen, car number 97, is the leader. We're enjoying this, folks. He took on just under 50 litres of fuel and 4 tyres in his stop. Exactly the same as what Winterbottom did. But a lot of those behind have got a different strategy going. So Rick Kelly and Craig Lowndes took on less fuel. They've got to get more on at the next stop. But then in the next batch of cars, as we look at this little battle going on between Holdsworth and Scott McLaughlin down at turn 6, many more took closer to 70 litres.
That's right.
So that means that the people that are leading at the moment, Van Gisbergen and Winterbottom, it's a somewhat false economy because things will equalise a little further down the road, which is going to make for great intrigue. That's a nasty sight for everybody at ProDrive. That is a massive amount of damage on that car. So the only way that they'll make it work for Van Gisbergen and for Winterbottom to not be vulnerable is to make ground. That's what they're trying to do at the moment. But they're nowhere near far enough up the road at the moment to buy themselves the extra margin for the extra standstill time to deliver the balance of the 120 litres that they need.
So here we are.
Check this out. That was cool. I want to get out there. This is good. Unbelievable watching these blokes into it. Over the top of 1 and 2, sliding, locked up, crossed up. Yeah, you want to go for it? Cop this. Get that into you.
It started right here. So he gets the little overlap, and he bumped him the lap prior. So he gets up there. They come out of here at 165k. This is 210k. Over the rise. Bump, bump, bump. Almost spins him. He gathers it up. Great gather up there by Winterbottom. Then they accelerate together around turn 3 alongside each other, and it's on. And there's a Nissan parked in behind the Commodore and the Falcon. So Rick Kelly's having a sniff. He's having a look as to whether he can make ground. This was a great exchange by 2 of the best guys in the field. There's Rick. He did a great job. This is the bump. Very lucky not to spin.
Guys at the peak of their powers, well in front of their cars, no problem, bit crossed up, I'll put it back in shape. Heart rates are under control, racing very, very hard and firmly out there at the moment, right at the aggression limit. Much more than that, and someone's going to be off the road. It's officially half a second between Van Gisbergen and Winterbottom. Then there's Lowndes and Kelly, different strategy for those two, rear tyres only. Then Mostert, then Davison, then Pye, then McLaughlin, then Holdsworth, then Whincup. Whincup was hurt with the double stack. When the safety car came out for Pither, Whincup had to sit still for longer. Now they're trying to make that margin that I spoke of. There's a little easing in the pressure between first and second. Lowndes continues to run that very high line up at 4. And for just a brief moment, the tempo just drops ever so slightly.
It just settles a little bit, doesn't it? I like this little outbreaking manoeuvre here with Craig Lowndes, who gets down the inside. And Rick Kelly knew he was coming. That's smart. That's enough experience from both competitors there to not hold each other up, because they know they've got to stay in the battle with Van Gisbergen and Winterbottom. And Lowndes is making time on both of them. Lowndes was the fastest car on that lap. 52.2, 52.2, exactly the same time for Van Gisbergen and Winterbottom, but a 52.04 for Lowndes. His fastest lap of the race on the last lap.
Hope you're enjoying the tyre power. Tasmania SuperSprint race 5 of the championship, 200 kilometres. We've got 67 laps of this to come. So if the first 18 are any guide, definitely stay parked, folks. This is worth it. Van Gisbergen's the leader. He's got half a second margin over Mark Winterbottom. They've already had a couple of brutal exchanges. And we've got 3 distinctive strategies. Whincup moved up a spot, by the way. He's just moved up into 9th place here in car number 88. He just displaced Lee Holdsworth. So he took on nearly 70 litres of fuel, Jamie Whincup, but he had to stack. That's why he's lost track position. He's got a fast car, fastest car in the field until just a moment ago when Fabian Coulthard just did the fastest lap of the race in position number 11.
But your point is really valid there, because the Whincup fuel load with less stop time for the next pit stop, and Will Davison, they can't be discounted. Will Davison is still in 6th, and he took on almost exactly the same amount. He took 65 litres of fuel on board. So they're still in this race, and they've just got to make some ground now, and they're in this battle hard with Mostert just in front of Davison.
Chris Spither has arrived back here at Pro Drive, and firstly, how are you feeling, and what state is the car in?
Just disappointed, to be honest. Yeah, not the way we wanted to end of the day. We're making some really steady progress over the AGP and up to this point, so not the way we wanted to go this weekend, but to be honest, just disappointed with the fact that I was unloaded at the hairpin massively. They've made it clear to us a number of times this year that you can't bump and run somebody, and that's what's happened, and that's the end result. To be honest, he hit me that hard at the hairpin and he spun me there, so yeah, not happy about it, and just disappointed for the team overall.
Hard luck for Chris. They tell me, Dylan Talabani tells me that the car isn't as bad as first thought on return, but more investigation to do.
Spither, ice break, Ford Falcon. Look at this battle going on between Coulthard and Whincup. Now, Whincup doesn't need to be held here for too long. He's got more car speed. For him to be able to dig out, sorry, Pye, for him to be able to dig out, he's got to be able to get some more clear air. The problem is, once he clears Scott, he's got another wall of cars in front of him as well. So this is the problem when you trade positions, and track position in this field is so key, and the double stacking is what's burned him there. So 0.6 of a second now between Van Gisbergen and Mark Winterbottom.
The car looks good, but Neil, doesn't it? Whincup's car doesn't look like it's got as much oversteer. I spoke to him this morning with Roland Dane, and his problem was mid-corner oversteer yesterday. He didn't think it was as good. Big moment there in front.
Well, McLaughlin got into the side of Will Davison, so that's why I was doing an R-ing in the background.
But when they were talking about the balance, he thought that his car was similar to Shane's yesterday in drive traction, but not as good in mid-corner rear grip. And they were going to attack the back of car 88 to make sure that they limited the amount of oversteer. This man yesterday was very good because he had less oversteer, and as the race went on, probably was faster than Will Davison, Murph.
Yeah, I'm just with Jono Webbs, Govey, just to have a look at Will Davison's strategy there. Jeff Slater's pulled another one there, and it was good, though, that Craig Lowndes, their strategy was very different because there was no stacking involved. He's managed to come in and, by looks of it, put a decent amount of fuel in.
Yeah, exactly right. No, we always leave it up to Jeff to call the gun strategy. Gets it right most of the time. Not every time, but most of the time we're right.
Don't give him too much of a pat on the back.
Look, at the moment, everything's working out pretty well. You know, we obviously quality didn't quite go to plan, but we know we've got a good race car. Will knows what he needs to do, and we'll keep pushing on.
There's always winners and losers in those situations where the safety car comes out. In this situation, you know, you guys have played smart with the Vortex team next door with Craig Lowndes and split them apart, so there was no stacking involved.
No, exactly right. No, we've been working really well with the guys next door all year, and this sort of thing shows that, you know, it's the guys next door tripped over each other. So we'll take another spot there. Jamie's pushed them through, but we're just cruising around at the front.
Good on you.
Thanks.
He's 7 seconds from the lead now. Jamie Whincup is in position number 8, having cleared Scott Pye. We're now riding with Pye. Yesterday, the sister car to that, Fabian Coulthard, ended up with mega hot front brakes in that car, and he couldn't pull it up, and he couldn't turn it down here at the hairpin. Holdsworth just tucked in under the back of the Falcon as well. He's in 10th position.
So Whincup has got that pass made there, and the Pye Mobile looks like it's struggling under brakes again, Neil. They had the drama yesterday you were saying about Fabian Coulthard's car, but it doesn't look like it pulls up well enough, especially at the hairpin. As you can see now, Holdsworth making real ground, isn't he? Big ground.
And Whincup's driving hard too, because he had the back of the car hopping into turn 6 then He's trying to chase down Scott McLaughlin. Watch this. They use every last millimetre of that 1 metre apron. And some. So that was Jamie actually trying to pluck the rivets off the fence down there on the exit of turn 4. Successfully, I should think.
Yeah, it's actually made contact there. The search for the little concrete apron. There's a little concrete strip between the bitumen and the guardrail, and there's slightly more grip on that tar patch. And as that concrete strip evolves, it gets a little bit more rubber on it. The guys will search for that. The longer this race goes on, more and more rubber down, more grip, soft tyres, remember, all weekend this weekend, as Holdsworth has a little look down the inside of Scott Pye at turn 6.
So you're hearing evidence of quite a number of cars also on the rev limiter down there in 6th gear, which they used to be yesteryear, and on the soft tyre in these light wind conditions, depending on how much you factor in tyre growth, that's 266 kilometres an hour with the gearing in the cars and the outside diameter of these Dunlop soft tyres at that engine speed. That's quick.
That is fast. And it's not easily flat when you're alongside each other through turn 5. So the cars move around, they buffet. The aero effect of the car in front or the car alongside makes them quite unstable. They're not linear through there. It's reasonably easy when you're there all in situ, as we just saw the first 3 cars go through. But when you're alongside each other and the cars are moving around, there's not a lot of road there, and they're quite unstable, Murph.
Yeah, I'll just quickly grab a couple of six with Mark Dutton here, Red Bull Racing Australia. The old double stack, there, Dutto. It's sort of hurt Jamie a little bit, but you have, by the looks of it, got some more fuel in there, so hopefully you're looking to get that back in the next stop.
Yeah, lost a whole heap of spots. You know, we ran the gauntlet a little bit, so, you know, we paid the price, our decision. But look at the pace, excellent. He's picking them off. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, he's going really, really well at the moment. Very, very pacey. And SVG's had some great battles up the front there already with Mark Winterbottom as well. It's been a bit heart in the throat stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He's not one to be pushed around. So
no, he's not.
Yeah, it's not smart to push him.
Okay, mate. Thanks.
Cheers, mate.
Dutton playing a game of understatement there, very effectively too. Shane Van Gisbergen's got a 1 second margin over Mark Winterbottom now. Craig Lowndes position 3, and it's 1.6 seconds between Van Gisbergen and Lowndes. Remember, Lowndes has got to stick a bit more fuel in next time round.
Only put 40 litres in.
That's right, and 2 rear tyres for him. Shane Van Gisbergen, who is leading this race, also 48 litres and 4 tyres in that car. So watch as this race evolves for Mark Winterbottom and Jamie Whincup, Will Davison, who've got more fuel in Will Davison's and Whincup's car. Watch them play into this game.
Pye's in serious trouble here. Lee Holdsworth down there. You can hear the rear locking. He got down there quite well. There's not much road on the exit. He's just got to stay there now. If he's able to stay there and have enough overlap, looks like he might be able to stay there. This is the spot I said before about, and see how Pye moved away. There's a little aero effect when the cars are together. You get a semi-tow or a slipstream effect when they're quite close. So Pye purposely moved the car away, and now Holdsworth grabs that position. That was a very nice move by Holdsworth. He's now up to 9th behind Whincup.
Now, Dick Johnson Racing Team Penske were a little cagey with me on what it might be that's hampering Scott Pye. They did make some good ground in their pit stop, though, jumped some spots. By contrast, I've just had a word with Jeff Grech down at Preston Hire Racing. They are super pleased with Lee Holdsworth's pace. They've known for a lap or two that they could get him, but they were calling for calm with Holdsworth. They said it's a long race, just take your time here.
And while they were calling for calm, he was arriving at turn 4 1 lap ago with the rear brakes stopped, and the rear wheels were touching the road about every metre, so he left his signature neatly on the road up there in dots and dashes Morse code style. So he was holding on with white knuckles when he got down there.
No doubt about that. We were on board for it. You could hear the rear wheel chatter. And remember, these cars haven't got a differential, so they've got a spool diff which hooks both wheels together. So when you lock the rear wheels, it's like doing a handbrake turn in your car. All the car wants to do then is spin around, and he was very close to doing that.
And the other issue there is that when you're that maxed out, there is nowhere to go. So if the other bloke's on the outside of you and you end up being friends with his passenger side door, sorry, mate, not much you can do. That's what we love about that corner. Unique in Australian motorsport. Look at it. 180 degrees, positive camber. It's a real speedway bowl. When you stand at the top of it and look down into it, the rise and fall is significant. And then that extra metre of concrete on the other side. A little bit of extra bite there for the right rear tyre.
Whincup's got really good pace, hasn't he, Neil? He's made a lot of ground on McLaughlin there. We just showed you those intervals and the gaps. And again, getting on the limiter. So one of the real problems for the passing position at turn 6 is if you get to the limiter like that, everybody's doing the same speed. So at 7,500 revs, in 6th gear, they're all doing 266 kilometres an hour, and that's it. You can't go any faster. So the passing spot becomes turn 4.
And depending on who you are and where you are in the field, who you're racing, whether you're being held up, whether you've got something in reserve or a little change to make to an incoming tyre pressure, we're approaching the critical lap. Lap 31 gets you filled up and home, just depending on your fuel mileage, which the teams have got accurate data. Ours is done on extrapolation and best guess. No 2 laps are the same with the fuel burn, but we're approaching that point. So you may see some people come in, but that commits them to a very long stint on tyres. And we learnt yesterday from Brad Jones Racing, the longer you can put off the notion of getting those tyres on and the racier you can be at the end with more grip. So I don't know that there'll be a flurry of activity, but you never know.
But remember, yesterday's race was a 50-lap race. We've got a bit over 50 laps now, and we saw the difference. Your point is the difference in strategy where Whincup come in early, made great track position, significant advantage at that time because he had clear air and track position, and he was able to put great laps together. So it was a big gain for Whincup coming in early, as opposed to Tim Slade and Jason Bright, who played the long game and had much fresher tyres at the end of the race. So we've basically got now this 50-lap run, and that will be a similar strategy in terms of who goes first or who wants to have more of an even tyre strategy in terms of degradation.
Now, Nissan Motorsport yesterday afternoon were massively encouraged by the result for Rick Kelly. You've jumped a few cars in that first stop, but you need a bigger drink when he comes in next time, don't you?
Yeah, we put a bit less fuel in. We started 12th. We felt like we had the pace to run around the top 6. So we put a bit less fuel in, try and get up there, which has worked out really well. But we've got to pull away a little bit now so that when we come second round of stops, we'll be back in amongst it.
Placement. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Robbie.
Yeah, so they delivered 40 litres. I'm just rounding figures for simplicity here because I'm not a maths genius. So near enough to 40 litres the first stop. That means the second one will be 80 litres, which equals 120, I think.
Well done.
Luckily, I got a calculator. So that'll hurt him in the next round of stops.
This battle's hurting Whincup.
And some people will also have to run a bit longer here because even though we're saying it's a critical get-home lap from now, because they put more fuel in at the first stop, they won't have room at the moment. They need the room to be able to get the extra fuel in.
So this battle is hurting Whincup, Neil, because he's got to McLaughlin. On the last lap, they both did a 53.04. The fastest lap of the race on the previous lap was a 52.7. So at that point, he's speed versus Van Gisbergen. He's actually losing ground because he hasn't got clear track position. As we go and have a look at Garth Tander versus Michael Caruso. This is for 14th and 15th position.
Garth was 11th yesterday. Michael came into the round as the championship leader. He's had an amazing rundown here of success, Garth Tander. 4 poles, 7 wins, 6 podiums coming into the weekend. And it was his 39th birthday on Thursday. Now remember, yesterday we had a cracking battle between Jason Bright and Garth Tander. They were a bit further up the order, but here they are right now in 13th and 14th as we go back to Mark Winterbottom. Coming out of turn 7. Wind it up, folks. Sit back and play racing driver for 50-odd seconds.
Drives it so beautifully and smooth. He's got a very similar technique.
Still good time, mate. That's 34 complete. Do you still want some help in the pit stop with the drive?
A little bit of radio contact. got a very similar technique to Jamie Whincup in the way that he's got a very smooth action with the way he turns the wheel. A very smooth action with his throttle progression, nice brake modulation. He's got a really nice rhythm going at the moment, and he's currently 1.2 seconds behind Shane Van Gisbergen, so very similar pace.
Interesting that they're having a conversation on the radio at ProDrive with Mark Winterbottom as to how you're going, what would you like incoming. So maybe it's a quick adjustment, maybe it's a little variation in incoming tyre pressure. Oh, problem here for Blanchard. Almost off the road, nearly down at turn 4. He hasn't got it rotated.
Whew, that was close.
That was close. He nearly had to be on for a 3-point turn down there. Back to Tim Slade, car number 14 on screen. Freightliner Racing. He just moved up one spot on Cam Waters, who's down in 23rd. These guys 22nd and 3rd in the field at the moment. 25 cars still running. Chris Pitheth sadly out of the event after what happened on the exit of turn 4 earlier. This is what happened. This will explain. Oh, okay, that's the reason why Cam's all bottled up here, and in fact Tim Slade.
I couldn't really work out. Cam was on the outside and was having a little bumping duel on the way in there, so I'm not sure whether Tim just moved him over a little bit and didn't have quite enough road, or there was a little bit of contact on the turning point, so hard to pick that one up. Slade, who was just fantastic yesterday, did a great job in the closing stages and was on the freshest, newest tyres and gained a huge amount of ground in a 50-lap race. And again, it'll be interesting to see what BJR does in terms of strategy here. So this is this battle that's hurting Will Davison. He's faster than Chaz Mostert. He's putting a huge amount of pressure on. But the two guys that have got less fuel time, less standing still time at the next stop, Davison and Whincup, they're currently 6th and 8th. They're both being held up, Davison by Mostert, Whincup by McLaughlin. They need to clear these guys because this is having a big impact on what will be the corrected order of this race after the next stop. So remember, as Neil said before, they can all get home from here. The problem is the run on the tyre is too long, and you want to try to make it more of an even tyre strategy, Murph.
I just watching the HRT boys have just clambered in the pit lane, and the 22 is coming in. Obviously, James came in quite early, which helped that situation early in the race when the safety car came out. And the HRT guys didn't need to stack. And James is now coming in. He's got enough room in the tank. Got a couple of green tyres there too that they've saved. You're hoping that makes a bit of a difference. And I just had a quick chat to Brad Wischerson also, Chaz Mostert's engineer. He reckons that when he was stuck behind Rick Kelly for a while, the tyre temp sort of went up a bit. He lost a bit of performance there. He's struggling a bit at the moment. And as you can see, Will Davison has just cleared him. HRT 22's on his way.
That's important for Will Davison, to Mark's point, because now he's got a little bit of fresh air, because the whole notion of the advantage that he's got with the fuel load was evaporating because of traffic. That's why you've got to be careful being, oh, that's going to be mega close between Whincup and Courtney. In the way in which the software reads what's going on with people's fuel loads, it's not taking into account any interruption by current traffic, and that was starting to be a problem for Will Davison. And it could be a problem here for Jamie Whincup for the very same reason now, because James is going to go out there with a fresh tyre on that car and actually be pretty racy.
Well, not only that, he's actually lost ground. Whincup's lost a huge amount of ground to McLaughlin. So when he was right up in behind McLaughlin before and doing a similar thing to what Davison was doing to Mostert, he's lost ground. He's about 100 metres behind McLaughlin now. And when he come out of the hairpin, there he is, he's going in. Those rear tyres have been absolutely fried. He was trying to get by. And what happens at this place is often you use the tyre too hard to get track position as Whincup comes in now. Great stop yesterday.
A little bit going on, as you can see. Matty's wearing gear there, mate. Nice and easy in this box. It'll be around about 20 seconds worth, mate, so we're going to be here for a little bit.
Took on 70 litres in the first stop.
Got about 5 seconds left. Let's get that lengthening. Really good. Do a screen for us there, Matty. Do a screen. Good man. Should be about 10 seconds left, mate.
We've got to deliver 50 litres.
Not much happening down there. 5 seconds. Plug your gear, you're ready to go, mate. All clear for now. All clear, clear.
Stacking for Waters.
4 cold soft tyres. 4 cold soft tyres. Yeah, you're clear on exit. Dave on exit. No, you're clear. You're clear.
There was an issue there for Cameron Waters' car. Guys, I just couldn't quite get to the bottom of it. It died. I wonder if it's out of gas, but I need to check that. That seems unlikely to me.
Yeah, but that would be unlikely, Rusty. Neil and I were scratching our heads also. Just all of a sudden pulled up in the fast lane, and all the crew from PRA have run down and have pushed that car now in to be serviced. So unsure. We'll get to the bottom of that for you. Oh, there's Whincup off the road. He's gone off at turn 4. That's the out lap for Whincup on cold tyres. He's parked. He's done.
That'll be a safety car. This will trigger some action. They've immediately brought Van Gisbergen and Lowndes in. They've reacted. That's important. This will trigger a safety car because there's no way he's going to get out of there.
We'll get you out and we'll see what we can do.
When I say not going to get out of there, not without assistance, so he can't reverse out on his own steam. So in comes the race leader.
And that's an unusual mistake, Neil.
They didn't bring Winterbottom in.
And flag, safety car scramble, safety car scramble.
They didn't bring Winterbottom in.
Waters is in the lane. So Waters is parked in the pit. They haven't been able to bring Winterbottom in, who was... Oh, so they put him out of the way now. Okay, so I don't know why he's not in. He should be in immediately. I thought the reason they didn't drag him in was because he was already there. He's about to come in, isn't he?
Yeah, so luckily he's not trapped behind the safety car. But
Cool. Should give you a green light. You're
but
not yet the leader. He's going to do a full lap and try and beat Winterbottom to the safety car line. Full lap here.
So the boys will be pressing on here. Some of these are going to go out. They're going to go hard because even though the safety car's been deployed, they're going to be maxed out here until they get into the train.
So now it's a race between Van Gisbergen, who's out on cold tyres, to get back around and get back to the control line in front of Mark Winterbottom. So this is the race for the end of
fuel to the finish. And remember what happened yesterday with a lot of people on departure as you're parallel to the outside of turn 2. Falling off the road was a popular trick yesterday. Understeering wide. So we'll watch here. Wait for the Bottolo car to appear. Look for car number 97.
Here it is.
Look at this.
He's going to get there.
Yeah. Maximum attack. Drops in behind.
Wow. But he would have had to take big risks, Neil.
He would have. And it raises the question, and here's the safety car picking them up. It raises the question of people pressing on when SC boards are out on the racetrack, and this is something that other categories have faced, and it's the reason why Formula One introduced the virtual safety car.
On board with Whincup.
Happened to Jamie.
Locked, won't make it in. So that's just understeered straight off the road. That is understeered straight off the road.
Very unusual for Jamie.
And for a man that makes very few mistakes, 6-time champion, out on cold tyres as the guys from PRA look under the bonnet of Cam Waters' car. The battle was on with Van Gisbergen and Winterbottom. And I thought for sure they didn't bring Winterbottom in because this car was being serviced. But at the end of this, it's been caused by one of the very few mistakes. I can't remember a mistake like that from Jamie Whincup. On the cold tyre out lap, he only went through 2 to 3 corners, all locked up, turned the wheel and didn't make the hairpin.
So Jamie's out and clear now. But
pitting this lap, mate. Pit this lap.
It was a weird one because it didn't look too wild on the way in under brakes for Jamie on that replay that we had there before.
Look at the speed. Look at them all. They're in full race mode. So your point is the safety car's out, the full course yellow flags. Everyone is supposed to be taking caution and going slow, and they are all at warp speed.
Yeah. With a stationary car.
With a stationary car parked on the road.
And in order for Shane to end up where he did, he had to do a race lap, a fully committed race lap.
So we talk about mad stuff. That is mad. And Whincup, the man who has an incredible record at Symmons Plains,
There's weirdness going on here with this Cam
little
Waterston.
mistake.
It was a beautiful drive from him yesterday. He fought really hard for that 7th position.
Yeah, guys, I've just had a quick chat to Tim Edwards and Nathaniel Osborne, who's engineering Cam Waters this weekend. The engine just cut out. I spoke to Cam as well. He said he was driving around there, and then that just cut out. He's managed to roll in the pit lane. There was obviously that panic there when they were trying to get the car out of the pit bay for Mark Winterbottom as well. But at the moment, they actually don't know still what the problem is. The engine will not fire. It's obviously electrical or something. They've checked the airbox for a fire potentially that was in there. They've checked the fuel injectors, everything. And they're still busily working away on this, trying to get this car back out there.
Thanks, Murph. The travesty of this for Cam Waters is he was 4th in the championship after yesterday's drive, so he's had a great start to the season. And these ones have big championship implications. 150 points up for grabs today. The other bloke that's been affected is Jamie Whincup.
Lights are out on the Lexus RCF safety car. We're racing once again. Already the 2 leaders put a nice little air gap back to Craig Lowndes. Green flag, Van Gisbergen, Winterbottom, Lowndes. 3 or 4 car lengths back to Lowndes. Tyres have cooled out. Awesome shot. Got a lap car in here as well. Will Davison's actually in 4th position. Quite a bit of junk on the road from Jamie's excursion. When he's come back on, he's dropped all the gravel on the road. So down the inside, getting past Andre Heimgartner is Will Davison.
Fabian penalty car 34 for exceeding this pit lane speed
James
limit.
Moffat's bad weekend is getting worse. Just been pinged for pit lane speeding, car number 34. That's a pit lane drive-through penalty for him.
It's a silly penalty, that one. Especially when everyone's coming in on the safety car. There's not much gain to be made there. So a cruel weekend again for James Moffat, who looked like on Friday, fastest in P1, was actually very, very good and looked like had made some serious ground in terms of being more familiar with this new Volvo package, changing from Nissan last year. Van Gisbergen leads into turn 4. Down the outside, we're on board with James Courtney is around the outside of his teammate. They've had a bumping duel all year so far. They were bumping each other at the AGP. This is Tander and Courtney. There's this buffeting. There's that movement that I was talking about before. You don't get through there flat easily. And Tander stays on the inside. Courtney now tries to do the crisscross. Can he get back the inside? That was the manoeuvre that we saw Mark Winterbottom do to Van Gisbergen. Both guys use all the road. Very healthy exchange there with the teammates. Just up the road from Tander is Rick Kelly. So Van Gisbergen, Winterbottom, Lowndes, Davison, Mostert, McLaughlin, Coulthard, Kelly, Tander, Courtney. That's your top 10.
So getting into the top 10 is important for both the HRT guys. They didn't have a great run yesterday as James serves his pit lane drive-through penalty. We're riding now with Courtney once again at the hairpin. He's in and out the other side of the pit now in the Volvo. So they've fueled up and rubbered up to the end now. It's a clean fight. And it's a street fight between Van Gisbergen and Winterbottom. And it was active at the start of the race. They were at it. So now it's going to be about how their cars behave. And we heard them talking on the radio in the Botlow car about just making tiny little incoming changes to tidy that car up. There didn't seem to be too much wrong with Van Gisbergen's car. It didn't intercept anything in the way of messages about changes for him. But is Frosty now a little bit racier to continue that hand-to-hand combat that we saw early on?
So a 36-lap sprint for Van Gisbergen versus Winterbottom. We've seen this battle early. Don't discount Lowndes, and certainly don't discount Will Davison, because Davison's speed at the end of the race was very impressive yesterday. He was able to get by Craig Lowndes, use less road, use less of the rear tyre. Mostert's better today. McLaughlin, after the unfortunate circumstance yesterday with a broken butterfly in the intake system of the S60 Volvo, is now up in 6th position. He's doing a very good job. Fabian Coulthard, Rick Kelly was very good also yesterday with a strong performance in 4th position. He's currently 8th. Tander and Courtney continued this battle for supremacy in the red cars from Holden Racing Team. It's very good at the hairpin, Mark Winterbottom. Kelly there, takes the inside line, gets in and around the Heimgartner, Lucas, Dumbrell, Commodore, and now Tander latches on to get the toe. He'll be trying to get the double toe here. He'll want to go up in behind Heimgartner and then pop out and see where he lands versus Rick Kelly. Gets down there, no problem. Tander and Kelly used to be teammates. They've had some pretty healthy exchanges over the years also. There's a lot to be fighting for here, and as I said, Van Gisbergen currently with a 0.4 second lead over Mark Winterbottom. Murph?
Yeah, just the boys, actually, Chris O'Toole's just jumped in here. They're trying to actually fire this car up. It does not want to fire, so he's giving it a rest again. Cam Waters was just watching the television, the exchanges going on. Hey, mate, bad luck. Things were going really well. So did have to stack there for before, but hey, what happened?
Yeah, they got a really good start, got in behind Chazzy, I think, and then, yeah, safety car come out and had a double stack, so went back a fair way, and then I was just trucking along there, then come into pit, and the car just cut out in the pit lane, so not really sure what it is, but yeah, the boys are trying to fix it.
It's been a really good weekend so far for you. Unfortunately, that fourth in the championship looks like it's going to slip by, but mate, it's you have been going so good so far this weekend, like a pro, like you've been here for a long time.
Yeah, we've got lots of positives to take out of this weekend. So we've got a quick car, and obviously Mark's second. So the cars are pretty good. We just got to yeah, just move on, go to the next round, and hopefully we can go a little bit better there.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks.
It'll be one of those silly little things like a crank trigger sensor or something like that, where you go through all the logical things that you quickly can do in the pit. But that's a great shame. Look at Tander down the inside. Nice move on Rick Kelly. Done. He only barely pulled it up. Rick gave him space. Great bit of racing between those two. So Tander moves up to 8th.
33 laps to run, next time by.
Let's ride with the Singled Nissan. He's got Courtney, Garth Tander's teammate, right behind. Car's very neutral. Tyres are young. So it might have turned into a test session now for Jamie Whincup. He will be classified. Might be a chance to learn about some stuff, or maybe he's got an issue.
They changed 4 tyres last time.
They may have just taken the young tyres back off.
Oh, he's off! He was out of control for about 150 metres in that zone, especially in the last 50 metres where he couldn't find the centre of the steering wheel, and he was going to centre punch Garth Tander. So he had a massive tank slapper going. He had right lock, left lock, and he almost hit the back of car 2, slightly miscued on the brake marker. Very easy to do down there. And then when you've got to take pretty much 200 Ks off. Didn't catch that, did you?
No, I didn't. I'm scanning him, but I was about to make the remark before that on young tyres, car looks nicely balanced, but that was a while.
Big brake runners, pedal to the floor, mate.
Okay, so
pedal to the floor.
Okay, understood. If it's not safe, bring it in, mate. If it's not safe, bring it in.
Here we go. So, look at the rears. So the brake pedal's on the floor, so the fronts have faded. So he's got hardly any front brake, it's got all rear brake.
I wonder whether it's just hurting front brake temp. Watch the steering wheel.
Very good car control and very good presence of mind to head for the last bit of tar and to not get Garth Tander. That was a great bit of driving. Great bit of driving, Rick Kelly. And then spun it around, kept it on the tar, and off you go.
With that sort of wild moment, he's a bit blessed to get away without any damage to the car. So he's soldiering on there at the moment, dropped a pile of spots.
But also big safety issues now for Rick, who just reported back to the team. The brake pedal is on the floor. And this is one of the hardest places in Australia on brakes. It's got 2 5-second stops that are massive.
Earlier in the broadcast, did a little focus piece on brakes, talked about the importance of retaining heat and getting those blockers just right. And yesterday, as an example, Dick Johnson Racing Team Penske, hardly an organisation that lacks experience, got their numbers wrong, ended up with a pile of brake temperature. Once that happens with the fronts, they fade, makes the rears too lively, and the 2 black licorice straps that Rick left on the run to turn 4 before, evidence that may have something similar going on there. Rear brake locking was extreme.
So Cam Waters, as you can see there, just rejoining now. It's important to get some championship points for young Cam, who's had a great start to the season. He's been very impressive, and as I said before, he was 4th in the championship before that mechanical gremlin caught the Monster Falcon. So Van Gisbergen, 0.7 in front of Winterbottom. So this exchange hasn't stopped. In fact, it's come back to 0.4 again. So that gap has been stable for the last 5 or 6 laps.
Remember that as we came into this race, it's super early in the championship to be talking about it, but Whincup was only a couple of points behind Shane Van Gisbergen, and Cam Waters was also up in the points. He was up in 4th, so Whincup and Waters both affected in this race, and both at the top end of town in the points coming into it. That'll hurt them.
Crompo, the crew in the Singlet garage were on standby here for the last lap. Now the boys look like they've just stood down. So the situation the team are telling me is that Rick is going to try and live with this, but they have urged him on the radio.
Oh, no.
He's
gone
off the road, Rusty. So he's locked up the rears on the run towards turn 2. So if it's that bad, he may have to give the game away. It must be cooking its front brakes.
Sorry, Greg, but as you were just saying that about standing down, he locked the 2 rear wheels and straight off at turn 1.
We're ready for you. We're going to go over the brake, see if we can resolve anything.
We're going to try and find out whether or not they've got a lot of blocking brake blockers in the front of this thing. Can't really see on that angle, but that's pretty wild when you come over the top of the hump, and he's already on the grey there. When we talk about the grey, it's the dirty offline area. And there's a couple of places that you could go off here and really hurt yourself and do big car damage if you're playing roulette with the brakes. So for some reason, too lively in the rear. We'll try and get to the bottom of it, but they'll probably have, well, it should be reasonably visible. Here's another replay. They'll probably have a bit of blocker in the front of it there. And we'll also be likely to see some data on their front brake temps.
And this was the spot a couple of years ago where Scott Pye had brake failure in exactly that area and went straight ahead into the guardrail on the other side of the road. So it's a dangerous place because of the high-speed nature into low-speed sections.
And sometimes it's silly things like, you know, one of those brake ducts can just drop out of position and suddenly be a little less efficient. Or the scat tube between the brake duct and the hub drops off or is loose. Here we go, back to the leaders. 0.7 of a second between Van Gisbergen and Mark Winterbottom. So Rick's just like, I'm scanning him on the radio. He's talking about, let's just focus on sorting out what the brake issue is. Let's get to Rusty.
I just walked into the Nissan garage, guys. They tell me that it's lost all pressure in the front master cylinder. The temps are up around 850 degrees, but they don't think it's the temperature that's the issue at the moment. It's pressure.
Brake duct's come off.
Okay, brake duct has come off. There you are.
That's what we just talked about.
Yeah.
So you can see it's got no blocker in there at all. So a brake duct has come off for some reason. And I waved that around in the Hino hub earlier in the day. And sometimes if they work loose, then you can have a drama.
There's been a few more dramas at Erebus as well. David Reynolds had to come through, get a tyre change. Had a slow leak. They thought, they weren't sure if it was a leak or the sensor initially, but then he reported in, no, that he had a drama, so they've had to come through, replace a wheel. And Jamie Whincup, the Red Bull, just decided to get him out of the way of his teammate in the fight that he was in with Mark Winterbottom, so they toured him through pit lane, being that his race and his day is pretty much done.
So big championship implications, huge today for Jamie Whincup, who's gone off the road. Rick Kelly with rear brake drama or front brake drama with that brake duct hosing coming off and has overheated the front brake, so he's only got rear brake left. So he's gone from 3rd in the championship now, obviously out for today, and Cam Waters, who was 4th. So of the top 5 cars, Whincup, Kelly and Waters have been affected dramatically by this afternoon's event with 150 points on offer.
And that's another little point to pick up on the way in which the points are apportioned through the weekend. So if you looked at 2015, 2 Saturday races were 75-point races. Sunday was the day that you got the big yield. Now it's split evenly across both those days, 150 points for a win for both of them. Tanders just managed to pull that thing up as well. Close to the back of Fabian. There's the brake duct. There's the scat tube. I talked about the orange material. And it's got a big circlip around it that holds tension and holds it all in place. So for some reason that's worked loose. And you can imagine the amount of vibration and movement that goes on there. So when that tube comes loose and comes away from the hub, it may have come off the actual back of the brake duct or come off the back of the hub, and it's skyrocketed those temperatures. Simple things can make a really big difference.
But it can be the simplest things also. He may have had a little excursion early, a bit of dirt or another bump with another car. So easy just to pull that scat tube away. There's 1,000 reasons why that may have happened to the front of the Nissan Altima. Rusty?
You can see here that Rick is pushing the brake pedal. They're bleeding these brakes. This has had championship implications for you potentially, mate, today. That's a tough one. How hard was it to drive?
I can't quite hear you, just pumping the brake pedal, but yeah, scary moment. We lost a bit of power there for a little bit, and then after that, the brake pedal went straight to the floor without warning. So scary couple of moments, disappointing because we did a great job to get ourselves back into the top 4 or 5 there, so quite disappointing.
Got to leave them go, boys. He's got to keep pumping, got to keep at this.
How's this exchange going on at the moment between Coulthard and Tander? We held our breath when they went side by side through 5. Wriggled, both of them wriggled into turn 6, and it continues back across the control line in favour of Tander at the moment.
He's racing about 50.
That was big.
Tander's racing. He's 7th. They've made that car better. So Rick Kelly, meantime, was back in there pressuring those pedals. And how's this one? So both of them getting affected, aero affected by each other, and wriggling side by side through turn 5 in both instances. And when you're on the high line there, I said yesterday, it is not an easy flat, nor was it for Fabian Coulthard.
How was that? It's 266 kilometres an hour. They're sideways and bumping. So this is where it started. Tander released the brake, got down there, gave him no room. They're then playing dodgem cars. Garth did this yesterday with Jason Bright. They're alongside each other. We're on board with Coulthard. You can just see the left-hand front there and the sliding. Look, the two cars are very unstable. They bumped again. At that spot there, it's absolutely maximum speed and no road left. Great driving by those two guys. Very, very wild moment.
Yeah, that was intense. And he's got the fastest lap of the race against his name, still Fabian Coulthard from much earlier. So Van Gisbergen's just managed to grab a couple of extra millimetres. He's a tiny bit further up the road at the moment. It's still sitting at about 3/4 of a second. And then it's Lowndes in 3rd place. There's still only 2.1 seconds from 1st to 3rd, but it's 3.2 seconds from 1st to 4th.
Oh, he's on
a big moment for Van Gisbergen. That could well have put a mark on that tyre. It was on the front right corner. So a bit of stress creeping into the game.
Held in all day yesterday. You know how to drive with it. 21 to go.
21 to go it is. Tyres have got to be managed at this point. Is there now a little 50-cent piece mark, rat-a-tat-tat, on that front right tyre? And if it is, Shane will be feeling it through the steering wheel, feeling it through the brake pedal. Here's the replay. Watch the front right. Just managed to pull it up. Here we go. You can see the wheel just trying to wrestle out of his hands just at the point where he wanted to turn it in. Unweights the inside front over the top of the rise. And these are live.
That's live.
I thought we were seeing a replay, but it wasn't. That's the same thing on repeat. So he's got a little bit of drama going here. There'll be some...
You know what's happening there, mate. You got this.
So that's Grant McPherson saying, you know what's going on here, mate? You've got this. Well, it's okay for Grant to say that, but that's 2 laps in a row with the right-hand front wheel locked. And Neil's point before was a 50-cent piece. They find the little flat spots, and you'll always find the same flat spot area again, which is what he did. There's a little vibration. You can just see that vibration in the steering. There's a little vibration there. It may not be too bad, but he's going to have to be very careful.
And it's the only place on the racetrack effectively where it's the unloaded tyre when he comes down here. The rest of the time, it's the loaded front. It's not the one that you want to have hurt. Here's where the trouble was.
Be conservative. So he's going to have to pull the pace back in that zone. He's going to have to brake early, and make sure he gets the car square over the rise.
And sneak a bit of percentage of brake to the rear. Still held his margin. In fact, he's got it out of 10th. 0.8 of a second.
There's Grant McPherson. Mark Dutton, and you can see the look on their face. They're concerned because you don't want to have, with roughly 20 laps to go, you don't want to have to go through and conserve, because the guy behind you's been terrorising you all day. Mark Winterbottom's had the same pace. There's only 0.7 of a second. They've been racing for 66 laps. And for Mark Winterbottom, what it does is when you see the car in front, you're battling for the lead, and you see the car in front with a wheel lock 2 laps in a row, you get a little sniff. You go, hey, I can win this from here. So Winterbottom will be certainly motivated to get up onto the back of Van Gisbergen and put some pressure on, force him into making another mistake. In fact, Winterbottom's flicked the lights on. Here's Bright up the inside of Holdsworth. Holdsworth very wide, got away with that one. Jason Bright moves to 10th position, but Winterbottom will be playing all the gamesmanship games now. He's flicked the light on. Big understeer there for Van Gisbergen.
And that's where he waves to Reynolds, just for giving him space on the exit. Still having a big fiddle with that brake bias.
It's just got a little vibration. You can just see that little vibration there. It's a replay of this moment through turn 7 for Jason Bright, who's coming on strong again this afternoon. Great drive yesterday.
And Lee Holdsworth had to tippy-toe then on all the junk offline. The problem is for the next lap, his tyres are dirty. They get a heap of what's described as pick-up on the tyres. Because they're operating at near 90-odd degrees, they glue everything to the tread face. And it can be as though a wheel is out of balance all of a sudden. The thing will shake, it'll have no grip. It might take a lap or two to clean up the thing. This is the margin from first to second. It's 0.83 of a second. So despite those couple of lockups, Van Gisbergen's holding his margin. And remember that Mark Winterbottom, he's on the teetering edge as well. There's nothing left. He's flat out. Just want to see what this thing's behaving like.
That's the issue.
Rick Kelly's car, I understand. Rusty?
He's just returned to the pit lane. This is the left front brake disc, and it's exploded, guys. So I'll see if I can find Rico and have a word to him. The team are having a look at it at the moment.
It's temperature related. So after it's got cooked, it hasn't liked it.
The metallurgy, I had one of these in Nissan days do exactly that. And when it explodes a brake rotor, you have no brakes, obviously, but you also often don't have any steering because it cuts the wheel in half. And you can see there, the top hat that normally hooks to that brake rotor is sitting there in situ on the wheel hub, but with no brake rotor there. The metallurgy and temperature to do that would be extreme, Murph.
Yeah, boys, that's a pretty serious sort of bad-looking brake disc down there. I'm glad I've never experienced one of them. I just had a quick chat to Mark Dutton. He wasn't sort of going into too much detail, but they don't seem to be too worried about Shane Van Gisbergen. They just said that he's pushing hard, he's managing the gap and doing what he needs to do. So at this stage, nothing to report as far as an issue, and he hasn't complained about that tyre.
And we're watching him at the moment continuing to fiddle with that brake bias control closest to his left leg. Bit of a bite there of the steering wheel at turn 2. 0.9 of a second. He's actually found a 10th. There's another brake bias adjustment and another one. 3 in a row in the space of 100 metres. And a gear change. We're seeing a lot less work on the anti-roll bars than we typically see at this late stage of the race, and a lot more focus on the brake bias, particularly in Shane's case. Another one.
And that was a good rebound by Van Gisbergen, because whilst the guys in the pit are playing game face and a little bit of poker with Greg Murphy on, no, we've got no problem, Van Gisbergen on track did the fastest lap on the previous lap. So great job. In fact, Winterbottom was 6th fastest, Lowndes was 2nd fastest, and Davison 3rd. Mostert in a bit of trouble. He was 14th fastest, McLaughlin 3rd on the current lap that we're on. So there's still a lot to play out here. And I've been really impressed with Winterbottom's tenacity today.
This is Dale Wood's car in the garage. So this is another Nissan Altima with an issue in the garage. So we've got Rick Kelly with a brake drama. And these guys have got something going on in the GB galvanising entry as well.
This is McLaughlin down the inside of Mostert, turn 4. Rusty?
Scott Sinclair says it's an engine sensor issue of some kind for Dale Wood. Let's get back to the action.
Thanks, mate. So McLaughlin grabs another spot. He goes up to 5th after the drama of yesterday. Great rebound for Gary Rogers Motorsport. Coulthard now is exposed to James Courtney. We saw this action with his teammate Garth Tander just recently, but he gets it done in a little bit more controlled circumstance. Runs him wide, did that purposely. A little bit of gamesmanship again, a little bit of racecraft just on the turning point. Left him wide, parked him wide, and gave himself a gap so you can't get the crisscross manoeuvre done on the way out of turn 6.
So James' car doesn't look quite as strong as Garth's. It took him a long time to get to Fabian. He would have seen clearly what Garth was able to do to Fabian quite a few laps ago now. This little battle continuing here between Craig Lowndes and Will Davison. This is the battle at the moment for third and fourth. These guys are about 3 seconds away from the lead. The margin first to second, by the way, is now just eked out to a massive 1 second. So they've managed to space it out by another couple of tenths in the last half dozen laps, but it's a very intense battle going on at the front of the field between Van Gisbergen and Winterbottom.
And Davison, again, is showing really good speed in the closing stages, Neil, because he was fastest on the previous lap. And he's now up in behind Lowndes, so that'll be costing him a little bit of time, but he looks strong. So Van Gisbergen, have a listen for your favourite driver. Van Gisbergen, Winterbottom, Lowndes, Davison, McLaughlin, Mostert, Tander, Courtney, Coulthard, Bright. That's your top 10.
Jeff Slater on the radio to Will Davison. So this is one of the other stories of the year, sharing garages, so an artificial partition wall in there. And that means that they're also sharing the boom down there, and there they are. That's into Techno Autosports. Jeff Slater closest to camera. Jonathan Webb behind him, the team owner. And on the other side, it's Team Vortex. Out of breath down there. And this is Jason Bright again, showing lots of pace in this BOC car, but Lee Holdsworth's not letting him get too far away. They've been strong towards the end of the race, the Brad Jones racing cars. Michael Caruso, incidentally, just moved up 1 spot into 12th. And Lee really racy on the back of Jason when they got down to turn 6 here.
For Wingcup fans, he's currently 23rd. Remember, he's made 4 pit stops. So a very big impact to the championship today for 3 of those top 5. Wingcup, Rick Kelly and Cam Waters have had huge points robbed from them under the circumstances of today's 200k race. As Holdsworth has a bit of a look, I think he's going to fly down the inside, and he does. A little bit of a rub. Actually, he wasn't maybe up there far enough. They bumped door to door.
It displaced Jason very high and wide, dropped it.
Doesn't look like he wants to, mate, so that's okay. Just keep racing, watch the car behind.
Slade, meantime, up on the outside of Scott Pye. This is another of the Brad Jones racing cars, the Freightliner Racing entry car number 14. Scott Pye and the Western Star Trucks entry for Dick Johnson Racing Team Penske. Now, these guys are battling for 14th and 15th. So Holdsworth looking pretty good here as well, because yesterday it was a 12th for him. It was a bit disappointing given where he qualified. And he qualified 5th for today's race, so he's now eked his way back into the top 10. So converting those great qualifying positions has been a little harder in the race for Holdsworth and everybody at the Preston Hire team. Yesterday they had a little problem with the stop cross thread on the right front, and Dale Wood, incidentally, has just gone back out onto the racetrack.
Tim Edwards, it has been an intense, very intense battle up the front there. Frosty just giving it to it lap after lap. Gisbergen was standing so far. He's doing an awesome job at there, racing really hard.
Yeah, no, he is. 9 laps to go. I think they're all starting to struggle with the tyres a little bit. That's pretty much the state of play out there. But yeah, no, he's having a good run.
It's enjoyable watching guys going at it, doing their absolute best in every single part of the circuit, not making a mistake.
Oh, those first few laps are fantastic. That was enjoyable to watch, even though, obviously it was a bit of tit for tat between Gizzy and Frosty. That was enjoyable for us, but
just had
an off. Need to talk about that.
And probably a safety car now. Thanks, buddy.
9 laps remaining, and we've got Tim Blanchard off here. And does that trigger a safety car from Cam's race control? Tim Schenken's got his finger on the button. And they may leave it, depending on where it is.
It's a long way down to turn 6. It's a long way down. It's
halfway to Launceston Airport, so he might be okay down there.
And that will be a result of a brake failure of some description, because he's just dribbled straight off the road there. It's one of the longest braking gravel traps. And that may have actually tucked that in under the front wheels. You see the level of damage on the front air dam there of Tim Blanchard's Cool Drive Commodore. We'll just have a good look as to what's gone on. He's put his foot on the brake, and yes, that's what's happened. He's basically tucked that under. The wheels have been locked for 150 metres, and that is a high-speed exit. That's 266k, and he's parked there.
They try and resurrect those front splitters and bumpers, and they rebuild them a lot, but I'm not sure they'll resurrect that one. And there's a minimum weight on those, in fact. Here it is again in real time. Just think what it's like in the driver's seat here. Put yourself in the driver's seat as it fires straight ahead, 260 odd kilometres an hour.
That is a long way down there. That's as far as I've seen anyone down there for a long time. It's 74 metres per second. You are going fast. So here's the battle. Davison strong again in the closing stages. Lowndes just blocking slightly into turn 4. And the body language at the moment, as you can see, Lowndes a big slide. That'll get him up far enough for Will Davison. He's got to hold the position now. We've seen so much of this through turn 5 and into turn 6. Good job. A little mistake, a little bit of brake fade probably from the front for Craig Lowndes. Just lock the rears slightly, and Will Davison gets that done. Very, very good manoeuvre. A little mistake from Craig. He's trying the crisscross, whether he can get back again. Can't quite get there, and gets out of the throttle to avoid ultimate contact with Will Davison. Very good exchange.
Late in the race yesterday, Lowndes was struggling a little for car balance, and it appears to be a bit more of the same for him at the moment. He goes back into 4th position. Davison is now on the podium. It's Shane Van Gisbergen for Red Bull. For Botlow Racing, it's Mark Winterbottom, and there they are. Will Davison, Techno Autosports, and Darrell Lee sticks in 3rd. Craig Lowndes, Team Vortex, position number 4. Then it's McLaughlin. Nice recovery today for Scott McLaughlin. Check this out on the onboard. So Craig had it all crossed up in the mid-corner. Will could see it, turned down tight, sat it on the rear tyres, and he's scooted away. Oh, big trouble down here at turn 4. We've got Heimgartner, Whincup and Waters. 1, 2, 3 into the rocks. Jamie's going to get out of there. I'm not sure about the others. There might be something on the road. So there must be something on the road for so many people to find trouble. So
there's oil out of Waters' car. There's oil out of Waters' car there. You can see the trail of oil there. They're all off. They're all off. Van Gisbergen's off. Mark Winterbottom's just got him. Van Gisbergen's parked. Can he get back out? He's going to grab reverse now. Grant McPherson looking on. This is huge because Van Gisbergen's been caught out by that oil.
Do your best, mate, to get it out.
And Tim Edwards shaking his head. Will Davison, in the meantime, has gone to the lead. Craig Lowndes from Mark Winterbottom. This is an unbelievable game sometimes.
Local yellows only, we understand. Can you believe this? The guy that earlier in the day, Will Davison, who took the pole position.
Yeah, see if you can get it out, mate, because they're not going to come and tow you. You just got to get it moving so we can get some points.
The world has opened up in front of him, and Will Davison's got the lead of this race. And look at that for a scene. Waters, you can see the trail of oil. He took a bunch with him, including Heimgartner and Whincup, and continuing to try and drag the Red Bull car out. Van Gisbergen is doing everything. It'll be making massive water temperature in that car stationary, but it's all over for him now. He might be hoping to be classified, but his day is essentially done. Here's the replay of exactly what's gone on here. So Waters is fired up there, can't stop it on his own oil, leaves the telltale trail. There it is, quite evident in the middle of the car, under the rear bumper. And here we are with Whincup. Listen to this when he gets up here on the oil. Some days are just like that, aren't they? More of the replay. This is the other angle for Waters. And in they come. Heimgartner, Crunch, Whincup. And then about to arrive on the scene, unaware of the fact that there's so much oil there, is this man. Race leader Shane Van Gisbergen tried to stop it, had full left lock on, was on the lock stops, grabs reverse and is well buried up there. 1.5 second margin, Will Davison over Craig Lowndes. We're still looking at replay vision here. James Moffat tangled up in it all as well. And the track is filthy up there at the moment. So there's Van Gisbergen. Have a go at Frosty. So he's been carted high and wide as well. At least he got away with it. Meantime, for Will Davison, It's a hallelujah moment. So he's just come out the other side, struck by lightning, leader of the race. One of the more bizarre things.
Unbelievable.
Seriously.
And Will Davison, based on this performance, will be leading the championship this afternoon if he can stay where he is and not make a mistake on that oil down at turn 4. What an unbelievable set of circumstances for Van Gisbergen. Mark Winterbottom just got away with that, Neil. He was so close to going in that sand trap also.
But you can thank his lucky stars because he's likely on the podium, and that gives him a fistful of points as well. We've got 2.4 kilometres remaining. Will Davison will think this is poetic justice.
Okay,
he had a pole.
Lap, mate, last lap again. Careful at the hairpin, mate. Careful at the hairpin.
He took a penalty, got pushed back to the next row, fought hard all day. Took a shock earlier in the week when Steve Hallam left the team to return to the US. They said they'd regroup and fight on.
So
he's shown great speed so far this weekend, and he's a few seconds away from a very important victory, Will Davison. This will be a big boost for this team. How's the form of this business sometimes? You cannot read it. He's had 17 career wins. He's about to turn it to number 18, Will Davison. Congratulations, winner race 5 of the Tyre Power Tasmania SuperSprint. Will Davison and Techno Autosports.
Awesome effort, buddy. Awesome effort. Burnouts after turn 2, mate. Burnouts are allowed after turn 2.
Craig Lowndes home for Team Vortex P2. Mark Winterbottom, 3rd, position number 3 for Botlow Racing.
McLaughlin, 4th. Mostert, Tander, Courtney, Coulthard, Holdsworth and Bright. That's the end of your top 10, but what a reaction. How's the theatre of the day for Will Davison? Did a superb job to be fastest after qualifying. Was penalised 2 grid positions for impeding James Courtney in qualifying. Goes back to 3rd. Battles all day. Was just about at the end as fast as Van Gisbergen and Winterbottom, but was not going to be able to match Van Gisbergen at that point. A little mistake at the hairpin. Oil down on the road.
I don't know what to say, but after this morning, funny how things pan out. I'm so happy, guys. It's bloody unreal effort.
And he's just done the summary for us, Neil, because he's so happy, but the way it's panned out, and as I said, that theatre of the highs and lows of this game, Will Davison, a very good performance over the whole weekend. They've had genuine car speed, and he's a contender in this championship. And how's the highs and lows of the championship today with Cam Waters, Rick Kelly, Jamie Whincup, now Van Gisbergen all being affected? 4 of the top 5, significant effect.
5 races, 5 different winners so far in the 2016 V8 Supercars Championship, and the latest name to add to the list is Will Davison. He's been a winner here before in Tasmania, and this one is sweet. There was an air of relief in his voice on the radio there a moment ago as he drops into U-Bet position number 1. And just soaks it up. You can't believe it.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you can be robbed and think, how did that happen this morning? And then all of a sudden you can be gifted and equally think, how did that happen? No, it's a great drive, and it's a great credit to that group. There'll be some frustration up and down the pit lane. Let's enjoy the moment with Will.
Thank you.
So, Will Davison gets home, 2.5 seconds ahead of Craig Lowndes from Mark Winterbottom. As you said before, Mark, Scotty McLaughlin in 4th place from Chaz Mostert. Garth Tander and James Courtney recovering from a difficult weekend for a 6th and 7th for the Holden Racing team. Fabian Coulthard, Lee Holdsworth inside the top 10. Jason Bright in 10th position. And all going on at the very start of the race, all going on at the very end of the race. That exchange in the early laps was absolutely fantastic, watching Van Gisbergen and Winterbottom getting stuck into it.
Will Davison, what a roller coaster of emotions you've had today. pole position. It was taken away from you. I know this victory means a whole lot for you. Shock departure for Steve Hallam earlier in the week, but you guys got the job done today.
Yeah, I'm speechless. You know, I was pretty happy to bring home a top 4 again today. It's been a big step up this week, and obviously this morning was disappointing, but so encouraging. That lap was so much fun. So just a huge thanks to the whole team at Techno, and I got an email from Steve this morning wishing us all the best. He got off the plane in LA, and he was pumped for us. So great battle with CL. Again, I didn't have the outright speed, but I had really good tyre life, and I was coming at the end, and obviously the oil caught us out. So unreal. And big hello to my amazing grandma Margie and my mum and everyone at home. Hope you enjoyed that one. I did.
Enjoy the champagne. On the podium, Craig Lowndes, we spoke to you on the grid. You said strategy would come into play. You started from P11 on the podium today. Well done.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I think we had a little bit of luck, that early. We were planning to come in on lap 1. We followed Rick in, and then, of course, we had a good battle. And then, of course, the safety car fell into our lap. Obviously, when every team has multiple cars coming in, I know Jamie was disadvantaged double stacking, but look, that's the racing. We had a really good car, just didn't quite have the rear tyre life that we wanted. Will did a great job again, and really for us, we were a little bit lucky. We were running 4th, obviously, until turn 4. Not sure what happened, but there was oil down there, and of course, Kizzy and Frosty got caught up with it, which allowed Will and I to see it. But look, we'll take them.
And you lead this weekend 2nd place in the championship. It's early days, but it's always good to be there. Enjoy the podium. Mark Winterbottom, it's been a solid weekend for you. 2 pole positions and a podium. You got to be happy with that.
Yeah, it was. We raced hard, and that was pretty cool racing out there. And just that end, the oil and whatever, and it's probably, justice for Will and after qualifying. So good for him. But yeah, good race. Like, if anyone at home wanted good racing, I think this weekend's been pretty cool. So awesome to be on the podium, and the Bottle car, we're spraying champagne, so we're getting there, which is a good sign.
Absolutely, we all enjoyed it. Congratulations.
Cheers, thanks.
Jamie Winker, yeah, you're asking why we're coming to talk to you. Well, I think it was because you're involved in just about everything that went on out there today, mate. Where do you start?
That hairpin wasn't kind to me. My first one was just a rookie error, to be honest. Just went.
You're not a rookie.
I know. I should give myself an uppercut. Yeah, just cold tyres, ran wide. Second time, yeah, as you know, all the oil all over the track. Gutted for the whole team, and Shane as well, to have 2 quick cars. We ground it out this weekend, and to end up with no results, a bit hard to
it's hard to take, isn't it? It's unbelievable to believe it too.
It's a bit hard to take, but that's motorsport, as you know. That's what it's all about. We'll regroup and try to come back stronger, harder next time.
There's a bit of a hit down there too when you went off and hit Heimgarden. That was a bit of a shock, wasn't it?
Massive hit. I'm surprised the front end's still in the car, to be honest. Massive hit in the gravel trap, but then just circulated.
See you, PI.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
How's that for a weekend for Jamie Whincup? He actually ended up in 19th position, so he does get some points. Here's our unofficial results. Will Davison is the winner from Craig Lowndes. Mark Winterbottom, it was a pretty tight margin in the end to Scotty McLaughlin. Mostert, Tander and Courtney, as I said before, for the Holden Racing team inside the 10, recovering from yesterday's bad run. Then Fabian Coulthard, who, by the way, had the fastest lap of the race. Lee Holdsworth, Jason Bright, and then various tales of woe down the order. A couple of damaged cars out there, and that vehicle for Chris Pither is going to require a significant amount of attention. Time now for us to enjoy the podium, race number 5.